Hello, dear Botanicas learners. How are you? I hope everybody is fine. So, welcome back to our botany class. In this small video module, we are going to discuss a small topic, plant breeding. So, breeding in the sense commonly that is called reproduction, nothing but production of upcoming organisms or new organisms, whether they are plants or animals, that is called breeding. So here plant breeding in the sense the breeding process or techniques comes under plants botany. So the scientific definition is the plant breeding is nothing but an art of science. This is an art, comes under science, which involves the genetic makeup, in the sense the desired genes we can introduce it in the new upcoming organisms from their parental organisms, and finally we can get desired offsprings, nothing but crops. Take an example from the parental crops. With the help of scientific technology, we could introduce the desired genes, and finally the upcoming crops or new crops or filial generation crops we can get accordingly our wish, or else accordingly a present situation or the need whichever people are facing or the countries are facing, or the zones or the regions or the continents, whichever it may be, whatever it may be. Plant breeding in the sense art of science in which desired genes are make up or made up or introduced by using the genetic engineering, whichever the techniques which are involved in the science, finally the desired crops we will be getting. That is called plant breeding. So in this plant breeding worldwide, scientists they have aims and objectives. Let me see one by one what are the aims and objectives of plant breeding. First one is wild crops cultivation. So here wild crops should be introduced into the normal crops growth, or else the cropping techniques or the fields whichever whatever the normal crops are growing. Wild crops, best example nowadays we have seen dragon fruits. So these dragon fruits are comes under wild crops. Jackfruit, panasapandu, and these what it is called, one more, pomegranate. And do you know potato? The potato also comes under a type of wild plant, especially the potato crop is not native crop of our country. So the potato crop is a non-native crop. So from the foreign countries, the crop is decades of years back, it has been approached. Not only crops, several weed plants, several weed plants or unwanted plants whichever growing in the crop field, those all weed plants are approached our country from the foreign countries or abroads several decades years back. So this process it did not take place within 10 or 20 years, dear botanicas learners. So wild crops cultivation and introduction of the wild crops comes under plant breeding. So along with the normal crops, these wild crops also fulfill our needs. Next one, genes collection. So here different types of plants, different types of crops, different characteristic featured genes are collected from the crops, and those genes are introduced into new crops to obtain the good quality, size, shape, and their economical value, and their resistance power improvement, and according to the disease, and the resistant power improvement according to the stress, pH, temperature, or the salinity present in the soil. few years back, if we take certain types of soils are capable to grow only certain types of crops. But nowadays, due to these plant breeding implementation techniques into the crops, what is going on, some type of crops we may grow in any types of soils. How it is possible? In the sense, a scientific technique that is called plant breeding. But a few years back, 20 or 30 years back, only particular soil is suitable for particular crops growth. But nowadays it is not happening. The reason is this technique. And most of the crops are disease resistant, stress resistant, and mutations also we may see very less. In the sense, several external factors they will affect the crops growth, then upcoming crops they may change, they may disturb or collapse according to their flowering, blossoming, fruiting, their vegetative parts growth, whatever it may be, etc., etc. That is called mutation, the sudden unwanted change due to the external factors. Genetically the upcoming crops will be disturbed, that is called mutation. So those all mutagens or mutants, that mutation process we can check with the help of plant breeding. Then other countries crops also we may introduce into our countries, because to get more and high yield, to get sufficient products to supply the population whichever we have in our country. So under the plant breeding, introducing other countries crops also an unique step. And tissue culture techniques. So under the plant breeding, several tissue culture techniques also implemented. With the help of these tissue culture techniques, within the short period, within the short time, more and more number of crops, in the sense more and more number of seedlings or the desired crops or the seeds, whatever it may be, under the laboratory conditions, we can produce, then we can supply those produced desired plants or seeds throughout the country or world. Then we can implement the agriculture plants growth or the techniques. Then only those crops sufficiently they can provide food and economical uses, etc., 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 to the farmers and also population or the people. So this is also an unique what it is called aim and objective comes under plant breeding. Then this one we knew already, high yield. To get the high yield, plant breeding technique is highly beneficial, and the high quality and useful variations nothing but desired characters, size, color, sweetness, or else soreness, or quality, quantity, thickness, or else number, or else whatever it may be, resistance power regarding disease, stress, whatever it may be, dear botanicas learners, those all comes under useful varieties. These useful varieties comes under plant breeding. Then cropping methods. So what are the cropping methods? In the sense we knew already, mixed cropping and short term cropping, long term cropping, indigenous cropping, and one more thing is what it is called, with the help of vermiculture we can cultivate the crops. So vermiculture cropping, by using the natural manures and artificial or chemical manures we can grow the crops. So chemical manuring and cropping, natural manuring and cropping, along with this vermicompost. Vermicompost is little bit costliest than the artificial and natural manure. Then green manure. So green manure crops also farmers nowadays here and there they are growing, they are giving preference, but investment the farmers they have to uh, spend or highly economically, and according to money, farmers they have to bear a little while than the normal crops. Then under the plant breeding, the crops whichever they are growing, they can tolerate the rainfall condition and saline condition and pH of the soil. We knew already different types of revolutions. The sudden changes occurs in the crops which they can fulfill. These all things comes under revolution. So under the revolution, we knew already green revolution. Swaminathan, M.S. Swaminathan, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. Green revolution in the sense rising the production of the crops, food crops. Green revolution. White revolution, milk. Yellow revolution, oil and oil products. Red revolution, red grams or pulses production rising or increment. Blue revolution, fish, prawns and etc. Water or aquatic organisms production rising or implementation. Then one more is a silver revolution. Silver revolution in the sense we knew eggs. The eggs production or rising or the techniques, whatever it may be, whichever it may be. So green, white, blue, yellow, red and silver, etc. These all are comes under revolution. These all are also comes under this plant breeding technique. So this is the information regarding plant breeding, dear Botanicas learners. So in one more video, we will meet with one more beautiful topic. Till then, good luck.